Welcome into the CHGO Blackhawks Podcast presented by PointsBet. Use promo code CHGO when you sign up to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. I'm Jay Zawaski. With me to my left is Greg Boysen. Mario Tirabassi still at the CHGO quarantine chambers in his home. He's hanging out. He is very frustrated. We've got a big show for you today. Today, as we speak, is the NHL Draft Lottery. We'll find out if the Hawks get a number 1 overall or number 2 overall pick. Otherwise, that goes to Columbus. We will react in real time. First up, though, we're going to bring in a special guest. With Barry Trotz being on the market as a head coach, Hawks fans and hockey fans all over the place are wondering, what happened? This is one of the most respected coaches in the league, and all of a sudden he's fired. We welcome James Nichols to the show. You can follow him on Twitter at James Nichols NYI. He is the Islanders correspondent for the Fourth Period and the fan-sided Eyes on Isles. He's also the editor-in-chief at Isles Fix. That's it. You're a busy man, James. Thanks for taking some time out to discuss Barry Trotz, my brother in no neckdom.
Anytime, guys. Thanks for having me on.
So I think the first question everybody has is, what went wrong? And as you looked through, Islanders Twitter yesterday, most people seem very shocked. So what have we learned in the last 24 hours about the firing of Barry Trotz?
Yeah, it was definitely something that a lot of us weren't expecting. Whether we should have or not is another conversation. But you kind of got this sense that after this season concluded for the Islanders, that the general belief was that this season was an anomaly. Looking at the way the year started, the 13-game road trip, all the COVID cases that had them missing a majority of their roster for an extended period of time, some major injuries. So there were a number of reasons why the season did go the way it went. But ultimately, it sounded like when it came down to it, at exit interviews, and not just the ones in public, but behind closed doors and one-on-one conversations with Lou Lamoriello and his roster, it really sounds like it boiled down to when Lamoriello asked, "What do you guys think went wrong this year?" It's not that the players turned around and said it was Barry Trotz's fault, but maybe the system and the deployment of players and the grinding style that they have to bring every night came up in conversation. And ultimately, Lamoriello decided that it was Barry Trotz issue and that he had probably lost the room at this point. And they decided it was time to find a new voice, and that is to be determined.
Yeah, that's definitely been the rumblings you hear when something like this, we've seen it. He's got a particular style. He's a grindy kind of coach. We had it here in Chicago for years with Joe Quenneville. He's got high standards of what he expects at all times. And when you don't fit those high standards, he's going to get on your case. And when you're winning, you're okay with that. But the second you stop winning, all of a sudden that grinds on you a little more and you don't want to hear it as much. Is that kind of what we think happened here?
Yeah, and at the trade deadline too, when Lamoriello had really put everyone on check, we had all really sat there and thought to ourselves, okay, the roster is put on check, everybody's on notice, and he's going to make some moves this offseason. It's either shape up or ship out. No one really thought that also included Barry Trotz. Sure enough, it did. He didn't, I guess, love the style of coaching that he played with down the line and had behind the bench towards the end of the season. The thing is with Barry Trotz is he's very demanding of his players, and so is the organization and Lamoriello. But every night, to play that particular system, it really is an every night effort, and there's really there's no room for error. So, it was a shock when it happened. But then zooming the lens out a little bit, you look at Lou Lamoriello's history, and 3 times in his career has he fired a coach, and the result of that firing was the following year. Or that same year, just a couple of weeks later after firing a coach, being in first place with the New Jersey Devils back in the day, he lifted a Stanley Cup. So you can criticize the move all you want, and you might not like it, and that's okay. But when Lou Lamoriello's history looks the way it does, you can also say to yourself, maybe this was the right move. It's to be determined right now. It's a little early to judge, but we'll see how this works out.
Well, you look at the Islanders roster, and you look at some of the guys that they have that are getting older and have a lot of term left. I mean, is there a sense that the team needs to kind of shift a lot of things on the roster, potentially get get younger, and maybe Trotz is not the kind of coach that can be on a team that needs to get younger? Like, is that kind of is that maybe an issue that led to Lamoriello maybe thinking, hey, this isn't the voice that we need to have in the locker room as we go through these roster changes?
Yeah, I mean, you saw with guys like Oliver Wahlstrom and Kiefer Bellows, the younger guys on the team, that Barry Trotz was definitely hesitant to play them. Whether that was a disconnect between Lamoriello's wants and Barry Trotz's needs is another conversation we'll never know too, because it is Lou Lamoriello. But that was definitely a concern with at least some of the media members, and the questions we would ask on multiple occasions. You would hear, I could probably count on two hands how many times we've asked about Oliver Wahlstrom and why he wasn't being deployed more. So there's definitely reason to believe the younger players not getting as much time was part of the issue, because let's face it, the NHL is becoming a younger and faster league, and the Islanders do hold a number of older players. I don't know that Zdeno Chara and Andy Green are going to return, but those are two of the oldest guys in the entire league. So when you're deploying them, and Zdeno Chara is getting like 20 minutes a night, that's going to hurt you in today's NHL, because they can't keep up with the pace. So as far as shakeups, yeah, I mean, when you see someone like Barry Trotz get fired, you can only assume that's going to be the first of a few major changes. But I don't know how much they can actually reconstruct this roster, because only a few guys need contracts. One major contract is going to go to Noah Dobson. They'll have a little bit of money and room to play with in the free agency after that, and then you have some minor contracts like Kiefer Bellows, and if they decide to bring Sebastian Aho, the New York Islanders version, back for another season. So, yeah, I mean, and then the core guys too are locked into contracts. So there will be some shakeups, and in my opinion, there'll be one or two major ones. But how much can you really play with this roster that's locked into some long-term deals?
What was Trotz like to deal with as a media member? I don't know if you spend time in a locker room or not, but I'm sure just covering the team, you get to see how he interacts with the media, interacts with the press. What has your experience been? What have you seen from him in those terms?
Yeah, I only got to speak to him a handful of times, but he's just he's the nicest guy, and it was one of those things that when I had heard that he was fired, it hurt me as a person, knowing how personable he is. He was always willing to, even on his worst nights, give you his full attention. He was always giving you some really great quotes to work with. He was always thorough, and there's not a bad thing you could say about him as both a coach and a person.
Having spent some time covering Barry Trotz, obviously everybody's going to try and guess what his next move is here. If he decides to jump right back behind an NHL bench, I don't see why he wouldn't. He's going to have his pick. I think you can make an argument he can slide into any and every NHL bench right now and be fine. Of course, Blackhawk fans see a name like that, and they're like, wow, that'd be a great coach. Might not be the best coach for this upcoming rebuild. So if you had to pick the brain of Barry Trotz, would he even be interested in coming to the Chicago Blackhawks at the start of a rebuild? Would it be the allure of rebuilding original six, or is he wants to go somewhere like Detroit or maybe Vegas if they want to make a move, a place that's built more to win now?
It's an interesting question. I don't know, and I hope you'll invite me back on the show after I say this, but I don't know that the Chicago Blackhawks are a destination for Trotz, because like you said, they will be going through a rebuild. And is he going to want to have to endure that and work with that rebuild? At the end of the season, he did comment on the fact that, he had a lot to deal with at home. His mother just tragically passed away during the season this year, and he has an elderly father at home in Manitoba to care for. So it almost seems like there's an easy marriage out in Winnipeg for him if he wants to go home and be close to home and take care of his family while also still being able to work. And then if that doesn't work out, there's also a job in Philadelphia where he doesn't have to pack up too much of his stuff from Long Island and move it halfway across the country or to another country. So I see maybe him staying within the Metropolitan Division, possibly with Philadelphia, but likely in my mind it could be Winnipeg. The other thing I think of too is that if the Golden Knights decide to move on from Pete DeBoer, that could be another team that he wants to go to, because they're probably closer to contending than either Winnipeg or Philadelphia again.
Yeah, that would be the total Vegas move, to fire Pete DeBoer and get Barry Trotz, because they can't afford to go out and get the big free agent this summer like they're used to. So let's make the big splash behind the bench.
Yeah, it could be.
What do you make of the possibility that maybe he's thinking of transitioning to a management position rather than continuing to be a head coach, especially considering, if there's things outside of hockey that he has to consider, maybe, what do you make of the possibility that he moves into a position where he's not necessarily tasked with having to lead a team behind the bench for 82 games a year?
I think that would work well for him too, because you look at his resume and you look at what he's done in this league. He's pretty much done it all. He's won his cups. He's third all time in wins. At this point, if he wants to move into management, he probably knows what it takes to help construct a team and not just a roster on the ice, but off the ice as well. How to build a culture. If he's looking to become a general manager of a team, I could see him taking the pieces that he learned from Lou Lamoriello and whoever else he worked under in Nashville and in Washington, and really, turn himself into an all-around really great general manager. Listen, players love to play for him. Us as media members, we love to talk to him. There's really no one that you can talk to around the NHL that says to anybody that they don't like Barry Trotz. So he's well liked. He's got the hockey IQ of a genius, and there's just so much that there's so many chemicals that you can combine with Barry Trotz that could turn out to be an excellent general manager in my mind.
James, you mentioned his desire to take care of some things at home. I wonder if something like a media role, a part-time studio analyst, something like that might interest him in the short term.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me either, because if he's looking not to maybe go back to work full time, like you said, a part-time position would be good too. I know guys like Rick Tocchet and John Tortorella are enjoying their time on the analyst panels, and if he's not looking to give himself too much of a heavy workload, not maybe he doesn't want to travel, he can take some time now to work things out for the next year or two, and just maybe get into a different state of mind. When you think about the past few years, he's been through a ton of COVID protocol with the NHL, right? He was in the bubble where he couldn't travel, and then there were a ton of restrictions and protocols he had to go through to travel when those protocols were lifted, and they went deep into the postseason two consecutive years. They've barely had a summer off, so it might be something that he thinks about instead of getting right back into coaching. Maybe taking a job where he only has to work part-time and he can take some time for himself.
That's great stuff, James. We appreciate you joining us, man. I know you're going to go enjoy the draft lottery and probably more excitingly, a big night of playoff hockey. Follow James on Twitter at James Nichols NYI. He is all over the Islanders, man. We appreciate your time, and if we can help you out on your end, please let us know. We're happy to jump on if maybe the Islanders bring back Kelvin DeHaan and you want to talk about the last few years of Kelvin DeHaan, because the Isles aren't old enough.
Or injured enough, yeah.
Or injured enough, exactly.
Right. Fits the bill.
Yeah. James, thanks a lot, man.
Guys.
We appreciate it.
Thanks.
That's James Nichols. Thanks so much, man. We appreciate it. That was great. Good insight. Just kind of the more we talk, it feels very unlikely that he's would even want to come to a situation like this. And really, Greg, you and I were talking before the show. He doesn't really fit the mold of what Kyle Davidson's looking for. And when we wrote about it on allchgo.com yesterday, I sort of mentioned, of course it's an intriguing prospect, but I don't want Kyle Davidson to be, caught up in the moment of, oh my God, this great coach is available. And while he doesn't really typically fit what I want to do, he's just such a big name. I want Davidson to stick to his plan. Maybe that plan is Barry Trotz. I don't know. But I want him to just follow through and do what he was planning on doing anyway. and I don't think he should veer from that plan just to bring in a big name.
Right, and we know what his plan is. He told us at the end of the season press conference at the United Center last week, he said he wants the Chicago Blackhawks to play up-tempo style of hockey. Barry Trotz, and up-tempo hockey should never be mentioned in the same sentence ever. He likes to slow
they don't go together.
Yeah, he likes to slow the game down. That's the exact opposite style. I'm not saying one is right and one is wrong, but Barry Trotz does not play that type of hockey that Kyle Davidson's looking for. So I don't think he fits what Davidson's looking for. Yes, he's a great coach. He's an intriguing guy. Definitely would make the Blackhawks a much better defensive team.
Sure.
More accountable team, I think. But it's not what Kyle Davidson is looking for, and I 100% agree with you, Jay. Stick to your vision, stick to your plan. You know, had Stan Bowman, I'm sorry, he who shall not be named, was still in charge, he probably would have had a press conference yesterday at 2 p.m. introducing him as the new coach because we're here to win, damn it. So, yeah, I love Barry Trotz. I'm a huge fan of his. I think he's a great coach. I would love to see him behind the Blackhawks bench at some point. Just not. It's not going to be now.
Right.
Yeah, and I think it's, you know, with the Blackhawks being in a coaching search, and then you hear the news of, oh, Barry Trotz has been fired. It's just like, oh, okay, well, you know, Chicago should be on the phone with him, and they should. But I don't think it's going to. I don't think it's going to entice him at this point in his career to be, you know, bringing along a bunch of kids. You know, talking with James, he's saying, yeah, they weren't playing Oliver Wahlstrom and Kiefer Bellows. Like, okay, we've heard that before, where a coach won't play young players. So why do we want to do that when the plan is to rebuild? So yeah, I mean, Trotz brings his resume. He brings a successful style of hockey, but it's not what Kyle Davidson wants to do, and I don't think it's what Barry Trotz wants to do as a head coach, is be, you know, leading a young team and a team that's probably going to lose a lot. I
like the idea of why not bring him in? Why not pick his brain like you did with the GM search, right? Bring people, just pick as many brains as you can. They brought in Peter Chiarelli. We all knew they weren't going to hire him, but hey, talk to someone with a ton of experience. Pick the brain of there we go.
There we go. Blackhawks, number 6. So the Blue Jackets, number 6. We do not have to. Blackhawks will not be getting the first or second pick. So Columbus gets the 6th pick along with Adam Boquist, Cole Sillinger.
They also have the 12th pick this year now.
Yeah, they're going to be kind of, if they hit them, I'm not going to declare them they're good because they got a bunch of early first-round draft picks. If that was the case, the Arizona Coyotes would be a dynasty right now. But they're definitely they're doing what the Blackhawks need to do the next 3-4 seasons. Get as many of those top 20 picks as you can.
Yep.
And you got 2 extra draft picks coming the next 2 years in the first round.
All right, are we ready to put a nail in the Barry Trotz conversation coffin for the time being?
Yes.
Until we find out they are planning an interview. All right, let's do that, and then we're going to react to the draft lottery news on the other side here. But first, we want to remind everybody that the best way to support CHGO is to download that PointsBet app and use code CHGO when you sign up. If you do that right now, you're going to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. You're also going to get, if you make a $50 or more first-time deposit, you're going to get a free CHGO membership. That unlocks all of our great web content, which we've been discussing. Later this week, Greg's going to have his Ice Hawks Wolves preview coming up. You're not going to want to miss that on allchgo.com. You'll even get a free shirt of your choice, like the one I'm wearing here, from the CHGO Locker. That's $2,000 in free bets, a free CHGO membership, and a free t-shirt from the CHGO Locker, all for making a $50 or more first-time deposit at PointsBet. Your home for live in-play betting just got even better. Introducing PointsBet's new feature, Live NBA Same Game Parlay. For the first time ever, you can build the perfect live NBA Same Game Parlay only with PointsBet. Combine your favorite bets anytime during the game. Want more? You can also boost your live Same Game Parlays. Watch live, parlay live, and boost live with PointsBet. And remember, online sign-up is available now in Illinois, so what are you waiting for? Once the game starts, don't just bet. Live your bet life with PointsBet. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700.
And the CHGO Blackhawks podcast is also brought to you by Athletic Greens and their AG1 formula designed to improve your gut health, optimize your immune system, and give you more natural energy. In just 1 scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics and adaptogens to help you start your day right. And it's really good if you have different dietary restrictions or different lifestyle diets that you're following, whether it's dairy-free or keto or paleo, whatever it is. With AG1, you're good to go. It's easy to incorporate in your life, no matter how busy you might be. It's a small, once-a-day habit with big benefits. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition with just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's all you got to do. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/CHGO Blackhawks. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/CHGO Blackhawks to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. So yeah,
right.
we're through we're down to the top 3 now. Down to the top 3 in the pack.
Coyotes, Devils, and Canadians. Of course, the draft is in Montreal. Finally, it's supposed to have been there the last 2 years. They're finally going to do it in Montreal. Montreal getting the first round pick. Let the if they get number 1 overall, let the conspiracy theories start. How crazy is that they go from the Stanley Cup final to one of the
unreal
top 3 picks? They got the best odds for number 1. If you just did it straight up, they'd have the number 1 pick.
Well, it's funny. We talk about this, and Lawrence has the graphic that the Blackhawks lose the draft lottery, which is true, but it's actually not the worst situation in the world, because had they gotten the first, or nightmare scenario, second pick in this draft, they wouldn't have a pick in next year's draft.
Coyotes get number 3,
much more loaded, much more. I would say a 4 or 5 pick next year is probably as valuable as the 2 pick is this year.
Probably. There's 3 guys next year. Those top 3 guys are, no offense to Shane Wright, are all better than Shane Wright.
Yeah, so chances are the Hawks are going to get a really good player next year. And look, had they gotten a number 1 overall and gotten Shane Wright, great. We'd all be very happy. We'd all be very pleased. But this is almost a better situation for the Blackhawks when you look at what they're supposed to be next year and and what's going to be available.
There it is. Let the conspiracy start. Montreal Canadiens, first overall pick. The Devils 2, and then the Coyotes 3.
So it goes Canadiens, Devils, Coyotes 1, 2, 3, huh?
Yep.
Wow.
So there you go. Montreal gets to have the very first pick in their home arena. Totally fixed. They threw the season. It was a conspiracy.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, hey, good. Shane Wright, start booking those French lessons now.
Hey, I'm all for draft rigging.
Let's start next year. Let's get that other original 6
team. The Blackhawks are an original 6 team.
Yep.
The league's going to want their rebuild to go faster than it's supposed to. So, hey, if there is rigging happening, and this is just speculation.
Put those balls in the freezer right
air
now.
quotes. I would like them to rig it for the Blackhawks next season. I will not complain.
Who's hosting the draft next year? Do we know?
Oh, it's a good question.
Who's hosting?
I do not know. I don't
To
think
the internet.
To the Google machine.
I don't think they have a location for it yet. They don't plan things too far ahead, because obviously with
it's
with
been
what
hard to
happened
do
with
that. Yeah.
with what happened with Montreal, having to push back the draft like 2 different times. I don't think they're really planned that far ahead. But I mean, this is good for Montreal. I mean, that's, how many times do you get to go from, like you said, the Stanley Cup final to the first overall pick in back-to-back years? I mean, we knew that run last year was ridiculous, and it was, it was the crazy divisions and all that stuff. But hey, I mean, they had to deal with some injuries. They were without Shea Weber all year, and he might be done completely. And now you get you get Shane Wright, and you get something to kind of kickstart their own rebuild.
Or maybe you trade Shea Weber's contract to the Coyotes, and the Coyotes get the number 1 overall pick. Then Shane Wright can go from the OHL to the NHL and actually play in a smaller arena.
There you go.
Play for fewer fans, yeah.
Yeah, go from the OHL to the NHL and less people watch you.
Nathan in the chat says, it feels like the Devils are always picking in the top 5. You'd think they'd be good now.
They're going to be good.
They're going to be good.
They've got some really nice players there. They've got Jack Hughes. Man, if he could just stay on the ice, he's starting to look like the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah.
Dawson Mercer is a monster.
And just a great hockey name. Dawson Mercer, that's a great hockey name.
That kid is like... He's a pest. He could score goals. He's a fan favorite. He's the type of guy that you hate until he wears the jersey of your favorite team.
Yeah.
Then you go out and buy one.
I mean, who's a better Dawson, him or Dawson from Dawson's Creek?
Him.
Mercer.
Yeah. Mercer,
I don't want to wait.
Yeah.
There's a joke. I'll tell you off air.
No, you can't do that.
All right. Well,
You have to do it now.
all right. It's not a dirty joke. It's not a hockey joke.
That's
What's
okay.
the
Oh, nope, stop.
Oh no, we can't talk about anything that's not hockey.
well,
Don't make
since
me
we
turn your
can't
mic
talk
off.
about who the Hawks are taking number 1 or number 2, what's the zip code of Beverly Hills?
90210.
Yeah.
What's the zip code of Dawson's Creek?
80108.
90218.
Oh.
That's the joke.
I could have worked either way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
There
a
it
good
is.
falsetto.
I liked it.
Good falsetto.
I was hoping
There
it
you
would be
go.
dirtier than that. Honestly.
Well, we got to wait for one of those late night post game shows. I'll bust out the X-rated material.
After dark.
Either that or right after a Manscaped read.
You know what we should do, Lawrence, for After Dark podcast? Just have it like a scrambled screen.
Yeah,
So
like-
people are like, oh, I saw it.
Yeah.
There's Jay's face. Like we used to have to do on the cable box.
I think that was a nipple.
Sure.
Yeah. I think that's a really good idea, and people are going to eat that up.
Yeah,
I'm
only
telling you.
the people of our age bracket would get that reference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
DM us and we'll explain it to you, youngsters, you young YouTube
Yes,
folks.
trying to illegally get the Spice Channel at 2 a.m.
Yeah, but back to the Devils thing. It's a good reminder about how development typically works. And we're really spoiled here in Chicago because a lot of Hawks fans who came and look, you should not have been a Hawks fan in the 2000s. There is no reason to be. If you were like us, you're a sick individual and seek help, and it's fine, no shame in it. But you jumped on the bandwagon and you saw Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews were good right away. Brent Seabrook and Duncan Keith had already developed into good players. Then later on, you had Brandon Saad be good right away. So you weren't there for the development process that happened. And for players to go straight from junior or to college and be star players immediately, that's the exception. That's not the rule. So, yeah, the Devils have been picking at the top of the draft, and eventually, if these guys develop the way they're expected to, the Devils are going to be a formidable team.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of time and development and patience. Patience is another thing. And look, if he who shall not be named had shown a lick of patience with Henry Jokiharju, with Teuvo Teravainen, and on and on and on the list, the Hawks would not be in the situation they're in right now. It takes people time to develop. Maybe if Kirby Dach had played 2 or 3 years in Rockford instead of coming up to the NHL right away, he'd be more of a complete package and ready to contribute. But we can't look at the past. We have to start fresh, like Kyle Davidson's doing right now. And, like you've said, Greg, they're not starting from ground zero. They're starting from underground.
Yeah.
And
Summer's about getting to ground zero.
It's going to take some time. And the Devils are way more typical of a rebuild than what the Blackhawks were. And remember, the Hawks had a lot of that going on before a large portion of the fan base arrived.
Well, yeah, they had the number 1 overall pick. Well, start with the number 3 overall pick to get Jonathan Toews in 2006.
Right.
And they lucked out there with the Blues taking Eric Johnson, and then the Penguins taking Jordan Stahl.
Yeah.
And then the following year, they had the number 1 overall pick to get Patrick Kane. So, look at the Rangers. They're in the playoffs. Yes, they're underperforming right now. But they had, in back-to-back years, the number 2, followed by the number 1 overall pick. And they've had 4 or 5 top 10 picks in a 4-year period. That gets your rebuild going when you hit on those guys. Obviously, when you take those guys and you draft a Jack Skilly, number 3 overall, then you got a problem. That was
Jack Skilly.
Yeah, that was a thing.
Yeesh.
Or Cam Barker, 3rd overall. Skilly wasn't third overall. He was 7, 8.
I think he
It
was
was not good. I
To
remember
the
that.
internet again.
I know he was drafted immediately right before Anze Kopitar. So
I tried to block all Jack Skilly memories out of my head.
Cam Barker was the number 3. So that was another Blackhawks pick in the rebuild. So they had 2 number 3s and a number 1. You hit on Toews and Kane. And then you had the one draft year where it went, what? Was it Ovechkin, Malkin, Cam Barker?
Yeah.
Oof.
That hurts.
Major drop
Jack
off.
Skilly was number 7 overall.
7, yeah.
Quite the drop off.
But yeah, another top 10 pick. They had a lot of top 10 picks in a long period of time. I know there's not a lot talk about that because there wasn't a lot of coverage of it then.
Right.
So now we've got the new I don't even want to call them new fans anymore because they've been around for over a decade now.
Right.
So you've got this, I'll call them the golden era fans, the fans that came on when the Hawks got good, and now they're sticking around. So now they get to I want to say enjoy that rebuild. Rebuilds can be a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
And we're going to do our damnedest to make this one a lot of fun because what the hell else do we got to do? But there is some satisfaction seeing a guy picked on draft day and having all that hope and in you, like this kid is the guy. And then you see him struggle a little bit, maybe in the minors, and he gets to the NHL, and it's kind of like, oh, I don't know. But then all of a sudden it clicks.
Yep, it clicks.
And he becomes that star. And then you get to see that guy that you've been watching since he was 18 years old and hoping he's going to be the guy. You get to see that guy at 26 lift that Stanley Cup. Damn, that feels good as a fan. That's the investment a fan makes. And that's where we are right now. It's time to make that investment over these next 2-3 seasons of these kids that get drafted and we get to watch develop.
Duncan Keith is such a good example of a guy who played 2 years in Norfolk, 2 full seasons in Norfolk. And then even when he arrived in the NHL, was very far from a complete player. There were nights where you would look at, the fans next to you and say, this guy can't play.
Drunken Keith was his nickname for a while.
And Brent Seabrook, very similar. But it takes time and it takes patience. And I was, if you didn't see, I was a guest on Lawrence Holmes' House of L podcast, and I sort of reflected on the dynasty there. And I'm telling you, rebuilds are fun. It's the night-to-night part of it. The losing every night sucks. But as you see the young players develop and take turns and get better and better and better, just think about how enjoyable it was to watch Alex Vlasic and Alec Regula at the end of the year, especially Vlasic, who Derek King flat out said, yeah, he can't play. And in the course of, 2 or 3 weeks, he became a top pair defenseman. Now, is he a top pair defenseman as his career goes on? Probably not, right? But you saw a guy who went from not even being able to play, coach's decision, right? Not ready, to being one of the more dependable defensemen towards the end of the year. That's one guy.
And that happened over like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Imagine what the kind of satisfaction you get watching progression over 2-3 seasons.
And just imagine this. Let's imagine next year starts, new head coach comes in, implements a system, and all of a sudden, and who knows if this will happen or not, Kirby Dach, it clicks for him. And Kirby Dach puts up like a 50, 60-point season, which is not out of the realm of possibility.
No.
How exciting is that? From the highs and lows of that great playoff he had against Edmonton and against Vegas, he was one of the best Hawks on the ice in both of those series, and then just wasn't able to find that again. If he's able to find that, even at once every 3 games next year, and becomes a guy that you're like, this is the number 2 center right now, potential number 1 center down the road, and you see that potential in him, how good is that going to feel as a Hawks fan? And it just goes on and on with all these guys. And look, you're still, even if that happens, the Hawks are going to be bad enough next season to probably get a top 5 pick, hopefully a top 3 pick, hopefully the number 1 pick. That would be wonderful.
That'd be great.
Frozen ping pong balls. Let's go.
Here's my hashtag for next season, along with hop on the ride.
Yes.
My hashtag for next season is embrace the suck. Like, it's okay to be really bad next year.
That won't get turned around on the social media at all, will it?
All right. We'll rephrase that.
We're going back to our scrambled post games again.
Well, hey, you wanted X-rated. Damn it, you're getting X-rated. All right, hashtag embrace the pain.
Yeah, I like that. Embrace the pain is good.
Because the idea is you're going to go through some pain to get a hell of a lot of pleasure on the other side of it.
Yeah, see? I like that. Get like a ball gag? No, we shouldn't do that. Got a comment in the chat from Riley. He says, I watched Doc's whole junior career. He had the size and reach advantage over his peers. In the NHL, his lack of muscle mass wipes that advantage out. Yes, he definitely has to get bigger. He definitely has to get stronger. And I'm confident that he will. Remember what his off seasons have been like. He's been recovering from injury or got injured in camp. Like, he's not really had many normal off seasons to just work on getting bigger and stronger. And who knows if he could have come back at the end of this year, but he didn't. And I think it's just a good thing for Kirby to just kind of reset mentally, reset physically, come into camp in top shape. And look, from all we know about Kirby Dach, the kid, he's a hard worker. He's not a problem. It's not a matter of work ethic for him. I think his biggest issue is upstairs.
Yeah, he's his
right?
own worst enemy.
And also adjusting from, like Riley said, you go from playing in junior, you are the biggest guy in the ice by a vast majority. You've got every advantage over the player, so it's almost like the scene in Spaceballs where he's holding him off by the head, right? And he's just wailing away. Kirby Dach was able to do that. Now he's in the NHL, and he's still tall, but he doesn't have a size advantage most nights, and he has to learn how to adapt his game. And getting a coach in here that can beat that into his head, and not in a hard-ass way by any means, but just to give him a clear message of expectation, a clear path of development. That's why I'm so encouraged by what Kyle Davidson has put together so far, what we think is coming. It seems like he's got a clear plan in every element of the organization, and hopefully coming up with a great development program for Kirby Dach in terms of strength, fitness. Paul Goodman's been on this job forever and has done a really good job, and I don't think there's anything that tells me he couldn't do the same thing with Kirby Dach.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mario.
Well, I was just gonna say, yeah. I mean, you look at even adding strength. I mean, he missed so much time with the wrist injury too. Yeah. So it's just like, there's only so much you can do to try and be able to grow into an NHL body. And if you're not able to lift, if you're not able to, he had a concussion issue going into his rookie season that kept him probably off of the training schedule that he thought he was going to have. Broke his wrist going into 2 seasons ago, and then this year, it was a lot of the mental game that kind of taxed on him. So it's just like the seasons that he's had haven't been crisp whatsoever. And I think, going into this off season, hopefully, the ability to kind of take some time away from the game, have a little bit of a extended off season to where he's going to be healthy enough to get into a training program that benefits him at the NHL level. I think that's the biggest benefit for him. And if you can add a little bit of strength, you hope that you're not sacrificing any bit of mobility, because obviously that's something that Kyle Davidson wants to focus on for young players and for players that he wants to bring in. You want to have enough compete and enough speed to handle the speed of the game as it is now. And we saw that with Jonathan Toews during a portion of his career where he felt that he had to, the way he played, he had to be physically bigger and stronger, and then ended up sacrificing some of the speed to his game, and it showed. And then he had to change it up again so he could be faster again to keep up with the speed of the game. So I don't have any worries that Doc's going to be slow, but you also don't want him to just pump on 20 pounds of muscle and then all of a sudden now he's just a beefcake out there. So yeah. You got to have the right balance. And I think like we talked about all season, the mental side of things, I think, was his biggest hurdle. And I think hopefully going into this off season, we'll see what his next contract looks like too. I mean, that could be a motivator as well to kind of prove that he can be a top player in the NHL, or a top 6 regular player, top 6 center, whatever it needs to be for the Blackhawks, that he can do that. And if he needs to be financially motivated as well, then so be it.
Sure, that motivates a lot of people.
It will be a
myself included.
Absolutely. It'll be a very busy summer in the Blackhawks collective weight rooms, I think.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys that fit under this category. I mean, Alex Vlasic is one of those guys.
Yep.
That was even mentioned by Kyle Davidson why they didn't send him to Rockford for these playoffs.
Right.
Because they wanted him. He didn't have a full season of working out last year because of an injury. He had some surgery. So they want him to have that full season of an NHL workout regimen, an NHL training program. Kirby Dach could use that. Lucas Reichel's a guy that could use that.
Definitely.
He's got at least 3 more playoff games here with the Ice Hogs. And if you're interested in that, tomorrow is going to be a great show. We're going to have more double bubbles here tomorrow. Possibly Mario might be joining us in the studio. We don't know yet. But regardless, we're going to have 2 guests tomorrow. We're going to spend the whole show tomorrow previewing that huge Rockford Ice Hogs Chicago Wolves playoff series. We're going to have former Blackhawk player and color guy, current Wolves color analyst Billy Gardner on the show to give us his view of the Ice Hogs Wolves from his perspective. And then second half of the show, we're bringing back our guy Joey Z to talk about the Ice Hogs.
Joey Zakshevsky.
Boom.
See,
I'm practicing.
Just close your eyes when he's on the screen and you got it.
Joey Zakshevsky. I think it's
Perfect.
the Joseph. That's what throws me off.
It's the extra S in
Joseph, because you got to go PH to Z. Joseph Zakshevsky. Now, did that feel like too slow and unnatural?
Yes.
Okay, see, so if I do it that way on the show tomorrow, he's going to be like, you're trying to say it right.
Drop the Joseph, call him Joe.
Joey Zakshevsky.
There you go.
There, I got it.
Got it.
All right.
Done.
I mean, he did.
Lawrence, record me saying that, and then I will
Drop that.
tomorrow. You
Overdub it.
fire it, and I will lip sync it.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
he did
just
say
overdub it.
he did prefer Joseph. He said, but
I don't care. I gotta say it right.
Okay.
I think you would prefer his last name right more than the Joe or Joseph.
I completely butchered it when we had him on. And Greg can tell you, I was practicing before the show. And as soon as he's on, I'm like, we'd like to welcome Joseph Jacob. And it just fell to crap. And
I mean, honestly,
seriously,
from a guy whose last name is
I know.
Zawaski,
And it's
this
happened to me.
shouldn't be
Hey,
that hard.
Zawalski. Hey, Zawarski. No, Zawaski. My name is very easy.
Sure,
Z-A.
that's what
Z-
that's what
W-A,
Joseph Zawaski
Wa,
says. Or
S-K-I, ski. It could not be easier. But the way you spell Joey Z's last name, Z-A-K-R-Z-E-W-S-K-I.
isn't there an E in there?
Zakshevsky. It's easy. Just learn it.
Yeah.
Real easy. Back to Kirby Doc, by the way, Mario. You mentioned his, you don't want him to lose speed. That's a good point. And you mentioned Taves, and that was certainly something that happened when he bulked up. What I see from Doc is he loses effectiveness in traffic. Like, how many times have we seen him take the puck from center ice over the blue line, beautiful stick handle, but as soon as the defense converges, it's wiped out, right? He turns the puck over, he loses it, he gets hip checked. He is the new Marcus Kruger that gets annihilated once a game by a defenseman. So I think adding some size will help him navigate those more traffical areas. I know it's not a word, but I just made it a word, traffical. I think that I don't want to see him like, he doesn't need to be, the Rock.
Right.
But I want to see him get big enough where he can navigate and fight through some of the tougher checking defensemen in the league.
Yeah, and I think that kind of comes with, that's what he used to do in junior. And a favorite saying of Derek King is, with developing young players, you got to get the junior out of them. You got to get those tendencies that they could get away with at those lower levels they can't do at the NHL, or they're not able to do them right away because they're the speed of the game and the physicality of the game surpasses them. So yeah, I think, and the thing is too, we all expect these 18, 19, 20-year-olds that need to bulk up. We expect them to put on 15 pounds of muscle in one summer and come into the next season and just be a tank ready to go. Like, that's just not how people's bodies physically work in a natural setting. So when you're that young, you're not physically developed until probably 20, 21, 22, when you actually get to the size that you're probably going to be, or that you're going to be comfortable playing at the level. Like you mentioned Duncan Keith earlier, or not earlier, but I was listening to your House of L appearance earlier. You mentioned on there about how Duncan Keith was like small, like he was like, what, like 6 foot, like 160 or something when he was drafted. He wasn't the like physical Duncan Keith that he was as the Blackhawks got into their cup runs and their dynasty era period. So it takes some time for people just in general to physically mature into their bodies. So, Doc being 18, 19, 20 and being tall and, 6'4", 200 pounds, but it doesn't necessarily mean, oh, he's 200 pounds. He's a solid, beefy guy and can throw around his weight. That's just not the case. Same thing with Alex Vlasic. He's super tall, but he's like 210. So he's, his height makes him stringy. He needs to kind of, fill out and be physically mature for the NHL game. And that takes time. You can't just be, 18, 19 years old and be a bruiser right away. Not everybody is built that way. And Lucas Reichel's never going to be physically full as has a stature. He's a guy that I look at like Teuvo Teravainen. Like Teuvo Teravainen is still very like small and stringy, but he's super effective.
Yeah.
You just have to find the way to physically navigate the NHL game. And I think for guys that are undersized, it's how do you navigate the game knowing that you can't just go and do whatever you want. You look at a guy like Alex DeBrincat, he's figured it out. And I think that Patrick Kane, exactly.
Kane hasn't taken a hard hit his entire career.
Right. Yeah. Being able to be shifty and be aware of where you are on the ice, where, and have that vision and ability to avoid the big hits. I mean, that comes with time, comes with experience. So there's a lot of things that I think we expect physically to happen for some of these players, and it's easy for us to sit in our comfy chairs and say, yeah, just put on 10 pounds and just do it over the summer. It's not that, it's usually not that simple. And I think you can't. Well, I mean, you don't
hang
have,
out
you
with
have
me
to play
for a
it.
week.
You don't have- yeah.
Yeah, say you need to put some weight. Hang out at the CHGO studios. There's always candy and very heavy beers in the fridge. You can get 10 pounds on you in 3 days.
I think I've lost 10 pounds during the show, though. It is. The AC is broken, Mario. It is brutal.
It's got to be the functional 10 pounds to put on, not just
there you
the not just the enjoyable 10 pounds.
You missed it. We had the maintenance guy was in the vents like John McClane in Die Hard, trying to fix the AC, but he's got to figure it out, so it should be better tomorrow. Anyway,
Appreciate the efforts.
Yeah. Hey, we are really thrilled with how CHGO has gone since we launched in early March. And one way to help us continue to grow is to download that PointsBet app. And when you do, make sure you use that code CHGO when you sign up. Not only will you get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000, but if you make a $50 or more first-time deposit, you're going to receive a free CHGO membership. That unlocks all of our web content, and you'll even get a free shirt of your choice from the CHGO locker. And in case you missed it, online sign-up is available in Illinois. You can actually download the PointsBet app right now, register from start to finish, all from your phone. You'll be signing up at the fastest sportsbook, easier than ever, so you can start living your bet life in seconds. So what are you waiting for? Once the game starts, don't just bet. Live your bet life with PointsBet. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700. January is correcting me, I believe, on my own last name, that the W in Zawaski should be a V. That's correct. It is Zawaski is the Polish way to say it. But when my family came to Ellis Island, they're like, what was that? Zawaski, Z-A-W-A-S-K-I. There's your name. You guys know Chris Rongi.
Yep. He just followed me on Twitter today.
So R-O-N-G-E-Y. Chris Rongi's ancestors came from France. Ranger is how they spelled their last name. R-A-N-G-E-R. So when they went to Ellis Island, they said Ranger, R-O-N-G-E-Y, and that is now their name. So there you go. So I am Zawaski. If you want to get formal.
We are doing all kinds of great history today.
This is because you're wearing an Expos hat. That's why we're talking all this French.
There we go.
Yeah. I know.
Matches my shirt.
CHGO Rosetta Stone.
Exactly. I'm really looking forward to tomorrow's show with Billy Gardner. I have never spoken to Billy Gardner in any way, shape, or form, so I'm a little bit starstruck. Like, you talk about a constant voice in my life as I was growing up and maturing as a Hawks fan. It's Billy Gardner, man. I'm really looking forward to talking to him. He's been with the Wolves for, it's got to be 15, 20, almost 20 years now. I got to figure out when he started with the Wolves, but
pretty much immediately after whenever he ended with the Hawks.
Yeah.
He pretty much jumped.
I got to put a timeline on that, but it's going to be really great to talk to him. And this is like the best case scenario for Chicago fans who want to watch the Ice Hogs. They're going to get to see, if you don't want to make a trip to Rockford, you can make a trip to Rosemont and go see a game. The Wolves are perpetually one of the best teams in the AHL. And it's going to be a great series. And I know, Greg, you've got a preview coming. Is there anything we should know? Want to give us a little teaser, a little preview?
Another fun aspect of this is at least the home games, and maybe the road games too, are going to be on Channel 50 locally now. Yeah. So you'll be able to see those first couple games Thursday night and Saturday are at the All-State, Sunday at the BMO Harris in Rockford. If there's a game 4, that will be next Tuesday, a week from today in Rockford, then Thursday back for a Game 5 if necessary. It's a best-of-5 series. It's going to be an interesting series. The Ice Hogs were one of the few teams that actually had a lot of success against the Wolves. I believe they won 9 of the 12 regular season games. Granted, I believe 3 of them were via the shootout, which is not part of the AHL postseason format. So the Wolves are top to bottom the best team in the AHL. They've got so much depth. They play well. Head coach Ryan Warsofsky has them going well. I was at Wolves practice this morning, talked to him. You know, he's a little weary that they've got the bye. He didn't think the bye was a reward, so to speak, because he didn't want to go 12 days between regular season and the postseason. No coach does, but they're a difficult team to play against. They are physical. They will come out and they will punch the Wolves in the mouth, maybe literally, but metaphorically. And it's be up to the Wolves to find a way to punch, or the Ice Hogs to punch back. But the Ice Hogs have been that team all season, and it's been the way they've played against the Wolves all season, where the Wolves will outshoot them 52-17, and somehow the Ice Hogs win 3-2. That's been the story of the Ice Hogs season. They are a team that will probably get outplayed for 40 of the 60 minutes of a hockey game, but in those 20 minutes, they get it together, and they never quit. They're resilient. A lot of that has to do with the coaching of Anders Sorensen. So they will be – you will probably hear a lot of you'll probably see the Wolves dictate play for a lot of those games, but the Ice Hogs will find a way to get that greasy goal and change the momentum. So it'll be fun. It's going to be fun. The Allstate Arena will probably be packed, especially that Saturday night game. You'll have a lot of Hawks fans there rooting for the Ice Hogs. It's a big rivalry. It doesn't matter who's on the teams. They don't like each other. There may be some arguments / fights in the stands. You never know.
Oh, let's hope so.
So
get those camera phones out. Let's see some flabby men slapping each other.
Yeah,
World Star.
Yeah, it'll be good. Let's reenact an NFL game and get a fight in the stands.
All right, so that's tomorrow. Billy Gardner at 1:30. Joey Zakshevsky, yes, at 2. Full-on Wolves Ice Hogs preview, so don't miss that. Join us. We will be there at 1:30 p.m., starting with Billy Gardner right out of the gate. Before we wrap up, want to remind everybody, become a member. Join CHGO. Go to allchgo.com to sign up. Get yourself a membership. It's awesome. You get access to all of our podcasts and live shows, of course. We've got every Chicago team fired. Blackhawks, Bulls, Bears, Cubs, Sox, Fire, Sky, Red Stars. Is that it? More to come.
For now.
I'm sure more is on the horizon.
And,
So make
and
sure
our
you
Bets
jump on
Daily
that.
Show and the CHGO Chicago Podcast.
Yeah.
We got all kinds of
Oh, yeah, the
stuff.
CHGO Sports Show, which I was on last week, which was a lot of fun. We got our post-game shows, of course, and our premium written content, which is just fantastic. All CHGO.com. You got the dope merch, like I'm wearing my CHGO Bulls shirt today, or my CHGO shirt yesterday. So you get a free one when you become a member and access to our members-only Discord. We'll be picking up the activity in that as the offseason goes on. So we're going to wrap things up for now. So for my partners, Greg Boysen and Mario Tirabassi, thanks to Lawrence, our producer. We appreciate all you do for us. We'll talk to you on Wednesday, 1:30 on the CHGO Blackhawks Podcast.